I love video games. Doesn't everyone?
Bye.
I think one of the earliest memories of playing a video game I have was this game called Act of War, where I didn't really understand what the premise or the mechanic was, so I was just stuck there building army bases and thought it was really cool. But that's the kind of experiences that, as a kid, forms your entire life ahead. Now, I didn't play that many games because I didn't have access to a good computer or a gaming console. I was mostly just watching my cousin play games. I was kind of a backseat gamer, if you will. I watched him play Crysis, I watched him play Prototype, Mass Effect. So the more and more time I spend on this earth, I think to myself, damn, there's so many interests and hobbies that come specifically from the video games I've played. I mean, I love hiking because I love games with open worlds. I love exploring shit. I got super interested in politics and history because I played like Call of Duty and stuff. And I committed a lot of car theft because I really love Grand Theft Auto. But there is one specific interest that follows me every single day of my life that was birthed by video games. Well, here, come on, come closer. There you are. One of the earliest games I've ever played in my life was the Need for Speed Underground 2. I remember playing it as a 7 or 8 year old and being just completely blown away by the graphics and the physics, but more importantly, the music. You see, Need for Speed games, at least in the past, have always been highly regarded because of their amazing soundtrack. And while Underground 2 may not be the Need for Speed you immediately jump to when you think of metal in a Need for Speed game, this was the first one that I've played. This is the one that I feel the warmest towards, and you know, all things considered, it has a pretty kick-ass metal soundtrack as well. Now, while majority of the NFS Underground 2 soundtrack mostly focuses on hip-hop, R&B, it does have some standouts, particularly in nu metal and just rock scenes. I always adored the Snoop Dogg and the Doors on Riders of the Storm. I think it's just such an unlikely duo, and it works so well in that opening credits slash main menu scene. But one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack has always been Unwritten Law Celebration Song. There's something just so special about that song, especially in the setting of Need for Speed, where you're just driving your riced out Honda Civic down the highway without a care in the world, and all you hear in your goddamn ears is I actually wonder what Unwritten Law are up to nowadays because I haven't heard that name in a very long time. That soundtrack also featured a song by the band called Helmet, Crashing Foreign Cars, and that song is metal as fuck, and I love how much it kicks ass. I mean, now that I think of it, this soundtrack is much more metal slash rock than I originally remember it. It also featured the incredible Skin Dread with the song Nobody, which is just such a fun nu metal spin on the reggaeton and the Caribbean vibes. It of course featured the classic Black Betty. Truly a classic of its time. But there was one song in this entire soundtrack. It was literally like the first puberty I went through. Okay, that's kind of weird. It was literally one of the first truly transformative life experiences to me. I'm of course talking about Rise Against is one of those bands that has completely shifted everything I ever thought about music or games or anything at all. When I heard that song for the first time, I didn't know anything about any genres or bands or anything like that. Maybe I listened to Linkin Park or something at the time. But Rise Against pierced through my brain and became a sole tenant in there for a couple of years to come. Ever since I played Need for Speed Underground 2, Rise Against has become one of the most listened to bands of all time for me, and that hasn't changed up until today. I still listen to a lot of Rise Against. Now, come to think of it, it's one of my favorite bands of all time, you know, alongside Linkin Park. If we go on a little tangent, I think Rise Against is one of the best things to ever happen to punk rock music in general. I mean, they're just so fucking good. And the fact that I got to that point from a game about ricing out your cars and driving in a fictional city somewhere in America without any cops or any kind of law is kind of funny. But of course, when you mention metal and Need for Speed, the first game that usually comes to mind to most people is Most Wanted. The 2005 one, not the shitty one. This soundtrack is absolutely stacked. I mean, it features songs like Blinded in Chains by Avenged Sevenfold. It features some more nu metal vibes from Static X and Cell Dweller, another artist that I was completely engulfed by ever since I played Most Wanted. The amount of AMVs I watched with Cell Dweller is just so crazy. It's on par with Papa Roach, the amount of AMVs I've seen with their music. And yeah, we don't mention the live stream event that happened a few weeks ago where I called them Cell Dweller. There you go. That's what it sounds like a little bit. Cell Dweller? Oh, Cell Dweller. That did not happen. Delete that clip immediately. Truly one of the most memorable songs on this entire soundtrack is the one that starts playing immediately when you press any key and jump into the main menu. There's just something so electrifying about this track, Nine Thou by Styles Beyond, that is just so core Need for Speed. They also collabed with Cell Dweller on this same soundtrack with the song called Shapeshifter, which is another absolute fucking banger with some of the cringiest lyrics I've heard, but still a banger. And to top it all off, oh my god, Bullet for My Valentine, Hand of Blood. Listen, I know what I said about Underground 2. It is one of my favorite games of all time. It is probably my favorite Need for Speed game of all time. But Most Wanted, having this song in their soundtrack, almost edges it out. To give you a bit of context, when I said previously that Rise Against was like one of the first metal bands that I've heard, or Linkin Park, I wasn't completely truthful. Because the first song I've ever heard in my life was Bullet for My Valentine, Hand of Blood. And I didn't even play the game. A lot of the games in my early childhood I've played by sitting on a chair next to my cousin playing those games. This is how I heard a metal song for the first time in my life, period. I didn't even know what metalcore was at the time. I was just like, damn, that guy is screaming and it sounds fucking awesome. This is generally one of the best Bullet for My Valentine tracks of all time, and the fact that it's in a Need for Speed game is just so fucking cool. It's fast, it's piercing through your ear canals, and it just makes you want to be first. It just makes you want to be first. And that's exactly what Need for Speed games need. There's also another franchise that does music pretty well. Of course, talking about Grand Theft Auto. It's right there. Another big source of inspiration and music in general for me was this series of games, specifically San Andreas, which was the first Grand Theft Auto game I've ever played. Probably the one I've played the most out of all of them. When you think of San Andreas, you usually imagine kind of the West Coast hip-hop scene, you know, Tupac, NWA. But this soundtrack surprisingly features a lot of metal as well. I mean, it features fucking Freebird by Leonard Skinner. It also features Hold the Line by Toto, which is a better song by Toto than Africa, but everybody loves Africa for understandable reasons, but I really love Hold the Line. It's personally my favorite Toto track of all time. It also has Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne on his own, Soundgarden, Boston. Now, obviously, because this game is set in the 90s, a lot of the music in this game is quite a bit older than the Need for Speed games I mentioned previously, but it still kicks ass. Jumping over to another Grand Theft Auto game, the more recent one, GTA 5, actually the most recent one, as sad as it sounds. In general, I just really like how Rockstar Games handles music in their video games. To have just these radio stations that you can flip through, which are really just like 2-3 hour playlists of different genres of music with some clever, quippy dialogue in between. It's just so genius. You want to listen to some rap? West Coast classics. You want to listen to some rock? Los Santos Rocks Radio. GTA Vice City specifically, I remember had some of the coolest radio stations I've ever heard. I mean, it had Michael Jackson on the fucking track. Are you kidding me? GTA 5, with all its flaws and the milkage that's happening to its online component, had actually a lot of really cool updates over the years in the online with new radio stations and new soundtrack, which is really cool to see. But I think GTA 5 specifically thrives more in the hip-hop/pop radio stations, so we're not gonna stop on this one for too long. What I will stop on for a little bit is another game that I wanted to mention, Burnout Paradise. From the intro opening of this game, it immediately sets the tone, and it just carries that tone throughout the game perfectly. This is one of the most densely populated metal soundtracks. There's so much rock and metal and new metal in it that it perfectly matches the tone of the game, this wacky, crazy game about racing, but more importantly, crashing. I in general just really recommend you play Burnout Paradise if you've never done so before. But this game, except for the aforementioned Guns N' Roses Paradise City opening track, features bangers from Depeche Mode, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Seether with the song Fake It, which oddly is like one of my most guilty pleasures. But more importantly, this is the game where I heard this song for the first time. My Curse by Killswitch Engage is one of the best metalcore songs to ever be created. And the fact that it's a staple of this incredible game's soundtrack is just so good. It's just so good to hear this song while you're ripping down the streets of Paradise City, thinking of the most elaborate ways to crash your car and kill as many innocent bystanders as possible to accumulate some arbitrary points. But honestly, Burnout Paradise is fucking awesome. Of course, when talking about metal and video games, I can't not mention specifically Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. Both of these games have featured Mick Gordon's incredible 2 albums, basically cultivating a whole new style, a whole new genre of metal. And even to this day, you can see it in modern metalcore. The riffage, the tone, everything still gets ripped off to this day from Doom soundtrack, which is so fucking cool and influential. One of the more recent games that I've played that had an incredible soundtrack is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I think this is the game a lot of people didn't really expect to be a banger because it was essentially created by the same studio and publisher as the horrible Avengers game. But when I tried this game out and played it, I was locked in from the first mission to the last, just in this like trance-like state. And a lot of that was because of how incredible big of a role music plays in this game.
I commend your efforts, Lady Hellbender!
There's incredible fight sequences when you're destroying thousands of aliens to Billy Idol or Kiss. And it just feels so awesome and free and character appropriate to Guardians of the Galaxy vibe. The soundtrack also features a song with one of my favorite intros in music, period. I'm of course talking about Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart.
Think bigger, way bigger. The one beast that you'd want more than any other. Jax knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes!
Oh, no.
Here it comes!
But I think the standout of this incredible soundtrack that features metal, rock, some pop, like old-timey shit, right? The standout is not the songs from the real world, it's the songs from the album called Space Rider from a fictional band, Star-Lord. You heard me right! Not only is this game incredible, the dialogue and the storylines and the gameplay is really, really fun. These motherfuckers wrote an album specifically for this game. That album is honestly pretty fucking incredible too. Some of the standouts are of course Zero to Hero, Space Riders with No Name, and We're Here. It's some of the best original music written for a game I've ever heard. It's just such high quality and high class. It's a shame truly that this game kind of flopped in terms of popularity. Nobody really played this game, but if you're watching this and you're looking for a new game to play and you happen to be a metalhead and a superhero fanatic, please pick up Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy because that game is a chef's kiss. Speaking of original music created specifically for a video game, how about some Alan Wake? Now, Remedy's games have become one of my favorites over the course of recent couple of years. I really enjoyed Control. I've played Alan Wake 2. I haven't had a chance to play Quantum Break, but I'm sure it's great too. One connective tissue of all these games have always been the band Poets of the Fall, which are dubbed in this fictional universe of Remedy games as the Old Gods of Asgard. And I've been itching to talk about this band for a very long time on this channel and never quite had the opportunity. Old Gods of Asgard exists solely in the video game universe of these games, Alan Wake and Control.
I'm looking for the Anderson trailer.
Sweetie pie, right on time.
And they wrote music for some of the most captivating gaming moments I've ever experienced, period. In the game Control, they have a mission called Ashtray Maze, which is a maze you can only go through by listening to a song from All Gods of Asgard called Take Control.
Take control.
And it's such an incredible sequence because you're mowing down these enemies, traversing this super obscure and weird and impossible structure of rooms and corridors. All the while, Take Control is playing in the background and is just pumping as much adrenaline inside you as possible. And it's just beautiful. You would think, how would they top that? Think no further.
What the hell?
Herald of Darkness is one of the best things that's happened in gaming metal history, period. You have this 30-minute rock opera in the middle of the game, completely custom written, completely custom made, with characters from the game singing in the song with lyrics about the game's story. All the while, you're controlling your character through this very abstract, weird stage presence music video kind of thing. Honestly, the less I say about it, the better. I really truly think everybody should experience We Sing mission in Alan Wake 2 at least once. And I would just like to say Herald of Darkness is one of the coolest rock operas I've ever heard in my life. That guitar solo, so good. Poets of the Fall, aka Old Gods of Asgard, wrote a whole bunch more songs for Alan Wake and Control as well, not just those two. You can check them out on Spotify. They have recently released like a complete edition album featuring all those songs from all those games. And I can only imagine how much more incredible it's gonna get with the next Remedy game, whatever it's gonna be. But yeah, I mean that's video games and metal. These are the ones I had experience with. As you can probably tell, I haven't played that many games in my life, but I did play some good ones. I did play some good ones. It's getting hot here. Let's get back to the normal studio. What a trip down memory lane. I love music in video games because not only does it add some kind of an atmosphere, some kind of a style to the piece of media, it also just happens to put you on some good ass music from time to time. And in my case, it raised me to be a metalhead. Should have played different games. What were your favorite video games that featured any kind of rock or metal or just music that you like right now in general? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your experiences growing up with some video games. Smash that like button and comment for engagement if you enjoyed this type of video. I'd love to make more of these, so let me know if you would like to see more of these. That was about it. That was about all. Play video games, listen to music, drink some water, and check out the links in the description, support the channel. Love you all. I'll see you in the next one.